You're not going to be able to get in with that, are you? Oh, that's right. Hello and welcome to another sold out night at the Velvet. The Velvet Note's a place where you can see and hear world-class musicians in a setting that's as intimate and as comfortable as your living room. We give you a chance to get to know the musicians here, but also to hear the music the way that it was meant to be heard. We're a listening room. We had our acoustics designed by a protege of the Hollywood director George Lucas, under his guidance, to be the highest quality, unenhanced sound available today. And Thursday, we turned 9 years old. So take that, naysayers. It can be done. And much of what we have to be proud of has to do with you. So many of you in this room have helped us to get to right where we are today, and we really appreciate it. I want to mention one in particular. She worked for us when she was in college, and she was accomplished beyond her years. And now she's a real adult with a real job, and her name is Hannah. Hi, Hannah. Oh, so proud, so proud. There you go. So, I want to mention the fact that this is the end of a series that we do every season. It's called The Legends of Jazz, and it gives you an opportunity to not only hear the music of iconic jazz artists and their recordings, but it also gives you an opportunity to understand and learn about the historical and cultural context behind those recordings and behind those artists. So it's kind of like taking a college class with a concert. And we love doing it. It gives you an opportunity to buy all of the shows in this series as well up front and get special seating. So we're going to be releasing that new series very soon. Take a look on our website if you find that you're enjoying what you're hearing today. This series was created and is moderated and researched by our very own music director, school professor, great drummer of many genres, Mr. Justin Barnes. On bass tonight, we have the ever-energetic Billy Thornton. All right. On piano, the great Louis Haribo. All right. On saxophone, the target of many jokes that he does not deserve, John Sanford. And a guest tonight, we're always so happy to hear him and see him on trumpet, Justy Powell. If you're seeing me for the first time, I do usually wear other things, but tonight I'm cooking for you, and there's nothing I would rather be doing. So don't let me be lonely. And put your hands together for the Justin Barnes Quartet doing the music of John Coltrane's Coltrane.
Does somebody want to tell Tamara that 5 people is not a quartet? Oh, what's that? No, she can't hear that. All right, I'm going to shut up and we're going to play.
Uh-oh. That's not good.
They did. Yeah, they did. Come back. I had to pay him.
you all so much. You got to meet the guys in the band musically. I know you were introduced to them before we started, but now you guys get a little more insight into who these guys are. We're going to get more into them later. For now, we're going to dive right into this record. That's the opening track and the title track from John Coltrane's Blue Train. And this album was kind of Coltrane's coming out party. He had been on the scene for a couple of years before that. Coltrane was a late bloomer. He didn't really get his jazz career started until he was about 30, which in jazz years is pretty old. I mean, it's pretty... Seems young. Before that, he was in the Navy and played kind of locally.
He landed a gig with Miles Davis and was a really good saxophone player. Miles didn't want Coltrane, he wanted Sonny Rollins, and Sonny Rollins was in Miles's band for a little while, and then Sonny Rollins went on and did his own solo thing. And so Coltrane came in and did a pretty good job. But then Coltrane was fired out of Miles's band, went back home to his mom's house in North Carolina, and basically reinvented himself from the ground up. So he comes back. He'd already recorded a couple of albums, and again, he was considered one of the many good tenor saxophone players out there. But when he first comes back, instead of going right into the studio, it's Thelonious Monk actually who hires him first. When he comes back, Monk says, "I want you to come play in my band." They did a residency from July of 1957 to December of 1957 at the 5 Spot. Monk played there with Coltrane basically 7 nights a week. And although they, must have created amazing music together, they didn't record any of it officially because Coltrane was on a record label called Prestige Records, and we're going to get into them a little bit more. But long story short, Monk did not have a good relationship with Prestige. He never wanted to record for them again. So basically, that group never got to record officially. Luckily. Coltrane's wife Naima was able to do a bootleg of that band in early 1958, which has been released recently, and also they did a radio show at Carnegie Hall that eventually would come out. Came out maybe 5 or 10 years ago. So we do have copies of that, but at the time we didn't. So when Coltrane comes out with his record Blue Train, this opening track, when Coltrane comes in with this solo, it just wiped the floor with everybody. He was a markedly better saxophonist and improviser than the one people knew of maybe even just a year ago. It really kind of set him on the course to the John Coltrane that we now all know and love. But a good deal of that had to do with his time with Monk, because Monk gave Coltrane a lot more breathing room. He gave Coltrane as many courses as he needed to get his ideas out. Monk was also, one of the biggest lovers and players of the blues, and I think he really kind of helped shape Coltrane's ability to play the blues. So it's no wonder that this song or this album starts with the blues, called Blue Train. We're gonna break from the record right now and do a little tip of the cap to Thelonious Monk and their time together. We're gonna do a Monk composition. This one's entitled Bimsha Swing.
guys. Thank you so much.
This album, Blue Train, was the only album that Coltrane recorded as a leader on Blue Note Records, and it's kind of a weird thing that he only did one record with Blue Note. And the way that it happened, it's kind of like this was happening in all throughout Hollywood, I guess, but definitely in the 40s and 50s. If you were an actor or an actress, you would be signed by a particular studio. And another studio might want to do a movie with you, and they would work out some sort of deal where you would basically, you could, get a chance to do a movie with somebody else who is signed with a different studio. Same thing happened here. Coltrane was signed with Prestige Records, and Prestige and Alfred Lyon, the president of Blue Note Records, had a handshake agreement that they would let Coltrane do one record, and only one record with Blue Note, even though Coltrane was signed to Prestige. And for those of you that were here for the Miles Davis roundabout midnight night, this story will sound familiar. Prestige had a lot of the great jazz artists in the 50s, but Prestige didn't pay well, and they certainly didn't pay for rehearsals. So a lot of these great records on Prestige, these are records that were kind of like, all right, let's just run in there, we'll play a couple of standards, and we'll get paid in cash, and then we'll go home. But as jazz started to grow in popularity, some of the bigger labels like Columbia Records, which is the record label that signed Miles away from Prestige, Columbia also signed Monk away from Prestige. And so Blue Note offered to pay, not only pay Coltrane for the time it would take him to write some new compositions, but also paid for rehearsal time, which allowed Coltrane to put together a bigger ensemble, have more lush harmonies, and write some really cool and specific arrangements. Like, for example, in the first song, Blue Train, you heard that there were times when, in the middle of someone's solo, everybody started to play twice as fast. Well, almost everybody. Billy didn't play twice as fast. He's kind of dumb and slow, so we didn't want to necessarily do that.
Y'all played twice as fast.
I didn't say twice as good. I said twice as fast. Okay. We just tried to get it over quicker. But that's like he's going to do these little arranging things throughout the record that we didn't really hear from the stock bebop stuff that might have been coming out of Prestige Records. So this was Coltrane's chance. Not only was he a more refined and mature player, he was starting to compose on a higher level as well. While he was away kind of getting his stuff together, he started to create a new kind of a way to play jazz. There were these new chord changes that he wrote that would eventually become one of his seminal records, which is called Giant Steps. And he started to use this kind of very unique set of chords and harmony. And it's on this record, Blue Train, that he's going to debut just little bits and pieces of that kind of unique harmony. And he's going to do it on the next song we're going to do here. This is entitled Moment's Notice. And there's lots of little hits and tricky turns, so wish us luck. But this is one of my favorite John Coltrane compositions. This is entitled Moment's Notice. That was a moment's notice. So we've talked a lot about Coltrane. We're going to talk some more about Blue Note and their
involvement in this record. But I did want to take a second and talk about the other members of the group. I said he added a few horns, kind of augmented his ensemble. And he did it in kind of a unique way. There was a young trumpet player. He'd been on the scene for maybe a year and a half. Great young trumpet player named Lee Morgan. And Coltrane recruited him for this album. And it's one of the first albums that Lee Morgan did. Certainly the most famous that would have come out at that time. He's just 19 years old. And he kills this record. He plays so many amazing solos, including the solo on the next song we're going to play here in a second called Locomotion. Lee, after getting a chance to record with Coltrane, would go on to join the great Art Blakey's band. Matter of fact, he's the trumpet player on the famous Monin track that Art Blakey recorded. Lee has a kind of a super famous solo on that as well. The other member of the three-horn ensemble is the trombonist Curtis Fuller. Curtis would also go on to play with Art Blakey. Curtis adds, it's great to hear Coltrane get to arrange for three horns, Curtis adds a really great kind of mellow sound to the bottom end of this band. He plays a great solo on Blue Train as well. The other members of the ensemble is a pianist named Kenny Drew, and bassist Paul Chambers and drummer Philly Joe Jones. Coltrane had played with Philly Joe Jones and Paul Chambers in Miles Davis's band, and at the time, PC, or Paul Chambers, and Philly Joe were playing in a trio with Kenny Drew. So we kind of plucked out that trio and then added the horns. And what's really cool about it is when we hear this Coltrane record, we're really hearing three really important
and pivotal sounds of jazz from that era. We're hearing, obviously, John Coltrane. We're getting what will be the sound in our ears in a couple of years of Art Blakey's band. And we're obviously getting the rhythm section, or part of the rhythm section from Miles Davis. So there's a lot of things that kind of come together on this record, and sonically, what makes it sound so good is partly the members of the ensemble that he chose. We're going to do a tune for you right now that features Justin Powell on trumpet. It's an up-tempo tune. We talked about how much Coltrane was starting to really get into the blues. We can hear that on Blue Train. This tune, Locomotion, has an interesting form in that it's a blues. It's an up-tempo blues 2 times, and then there's going to be an 8-bar other section called a bridge, and then we're going to play the blues again. So he's basically kind of bebopped his way into a blues form. So you'll hear a lot of blues, but you'll hear some cool chord changes and bebop on this one as well. This was pretty fast. This was entitled Locomotion.
So I made all these charts for these songs, and I made it I probably said it 3 times in rehearsal. Okay, guys, after John's solo, we're gonna put in a big 8-bar break just for Justin. And I even highlighted it. It's like highlighted on the page. It's like, please don't mess this up. Anybody want to take a guess which dummy on the stage forgot? Yeah, it's actually used to jump. We often get mistaked for each other, so for once, think it was him, please. Okay. The Locomotion. One of the things that's happening on this record is, he comes out playing the blues, real soulful, and has a lot of great stuff to say. But then the next couple of songs are up tempo and they're difficult, and he's really playing these at a high level, and he's starting to show that he can play fast, he can play difficult, and he can play the blues all with ease. But now at this point of the record, he's going to shift gears into what I think is his most underrated quality, and that is that of a balladeer, somebody who can play a gorgeous ballad. Years after this record, he obviously is going to do an entire album called Ballads. He's going to do the great record with Johnny Hartman, where there's a bunch of ballads on there. It's hard to find a live recording where he's not going to play a ballad or two, like the beautiful song Naima that he wrote for his wife, or he does a great ballad called I Want to Talk About You. And this is in that vein, and it's the only standard on the record. Everything else Coltrane wrote. This tune is the great Jerome Kern classic entitled I'm Old Fashioned. There's something that's interesting that happens on this version, and it also shows up a few more times on this record. One of the interesting things about what Coltrane did is he's rather selfless on this recording, and particularly for a saxophone player, that's a rare quality actually. They usually don't like to take the horn out of their mouth, but what happens on this, if you listen to, and we did it tonight, Moment's Notice, the melody is actually in the trumpet, and Coltrane is going to play a harmony part to that. And later on, we're going to do a tune called Lazy Bird, and Coltrane doesn't play any of the melody on that, it's all trumpet. And on this one, on I'm Old Fashioned, he's going to play just the intro melody, and then that's it. And then he's going to allow everyone else to have a say, and he allows the 19-year-old Lee Morgan to kind of play the song out. So a really nice move, because it really helps balance the record out so that it isn't too tenor heavy. Trust me, there's lots of tenor, and it's all really good stuff. Okay, that's it. John basically sleeps through the parts that he doesn't have to play, so, or drinks through them. That's one of them. He stops right after all the tenor solos. All right, so we're going to do our version of Coltrane's arrangement of Jerome Kern classic I'm Old Fashioned.
Thank you.
Wake up, John. Is Mrs. Hunter here, by the way? Oh, there you are. Hi, Mrs. Hunter. Barbara and her husband, Bob, have come to these concerts for probably almost when we started, about 6 years ago. And then the pandemic hit, and obviously we shut things down here for a while, and during that we lost Bob. I was so happy to see Mrs. Hunter make it today. I want you to know that Bob is in our hearts and prayers, and that last song was dedicated to him. So thank you so much. It's so good to see you again. tried to include as little of John Sanford in that song as possible. That's for you. We're coming to the end of the album here. We're going to do one more tune. Train called this album, Blue Train, his favorite record. He did this in an interview in late 1960s, so he'd already recorded Giant Steps and Soul Train and a whole bunch of other really good records. But obviously this is before he kind of had his third awakening and created such masterpieces as A Love Supreme and
Crescent and some of these other, and Ballads and some of those other great records. But this was a particular favorite of Coltrane's. It was the only record he did on Blue Note, and it's one of his most popular, one of his best-selling. Obviously, the other side of that coin is also true. It's one of Blue Note's best-selling albums, the most popular albums of all time. And I think we're all a little bummed that that Blue Note and Coltrane didn't do more albums together, but at least we got this one. It's a great lineup. Again, he finally gets to record some of his more difficult compositions because he's got the room to rehearse them. He's right in the middle of getting himself back together in Monk's ensemble. And it's not long after this that Miles comes calling again. And he's going to join Miles with the great Cannonball Adderley on alto sax to form that great sextet. He's going to record Kind of Blue in about a year and a half from this album. And he's going to record Giant Steps, and he's going to go on and have a monstrous and indelible career. But this record really was, before then, you know, people knew who Coltrane was, but people started to sit up and take note when this record finally came out. Before we play this last tune, I want you to help me thank one more time these fantastic musicians who have done a great job. John Sanford on the tenor saxophone. Justin Powell on the trumpet. Louis Herbo on the piano. And Billy Thornton on the bass. This last song is entitled Lazy Bird, and it's the first of a series of compositions he's going to write where he takes this idea of Coltrane changes, this new chord change structure that he's creating. He's going to start superimposing it on famous jazz songs. One of Coltrane's mentors was the great composer and pianist Tad Dameron. And Tad had a great tune entitled Lady Bird. And so Coltrane's going to take Lady Bird and twist it around and add some Coltrane changes to it. And we're going to get Lazy Bird out of that. He's going to go on other records. He does a version of But Not For Me, where he adds the Coltrane changes in. He's going to do it to How High the Moon, and he's going to call it Satellite. He's going to do it to Miles Davis's Tune Up, but call it Countdown. So he's starting to work in this new innovative chord structure into standards, and eventually it becomes what we know and love as Giant Steps. So this is one of the earliest incarnations of it. It's a tune entitled Lazy Bird.
Turbo, Billy Thornton. My name is Justin Myers. Thank you so much for coming out and spending your Sunday evening with us. Now here's the owner of the establishment, Miss Tamara Fuller.
But that's the end of the album.
No. They can improvise.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We loved having you.
More.
We'd love to have you again. You have to come back to get more. Says the businesswoman in me. You can find all of our upcoming shows at thevelvetnote.com. And if it's not there,
Call.
This series is so popular that we're going to do it again. This is for my birthday, not because I'm getting in shape so It's a blackberry lemon martini, right? It's muy delicioso. All right, so please, when we send you the invitation, sign up for the series. You get to call your seat. You get to get the whole series. You don't have to worry about being shut out and that sort of thing. We have some really great trumpet players coming this month as well, including Ron Hellman and Launchanu Parsons. I know, right? Yeah. 2 nights Launchanu. Yeah, I expect you in that seat, glued to that seat. This is what we love to do, which is to bring you closer to artists who inspire you, closer to each other, and closer to the song that's in your heart. Come back and see us again soon. Good night.